We are up to chapter 7, a brand new chapter, which is called Beyond Astrology. So let's have a look. We have studied some facets of the idea that our work has to be to break the limitations of the natural, to live on a plane above the natural. We're not here in this world just to kind of carry on and do what everyone else is doing in the physical world. To understand just how far this extends, we need to study an area, he says, which is itself above the physical plane, and yet which presents a danger, an obstruction to spiritual growth. This area comprises the related subjects of astrology and idolatry. Who would have thought? Okay. So some of you, if you're into astrology, then hold on tight. If you're into idolatry, then maybe that's a bigger problem that we need to discuss. Astrology and idolatry have certain elements in common. Okay, let's see what that is. Let's study some of the common ground and we can understand our role as transcendent people. The Torah's prohibition of Avodah Zarah idolatry is puzzling. When the Torah prohibits us from serving other gods, exactly which other gods are being referred to? We often think they're imaginary figments of a fertile imagination, and worship of graven images is exactly that. Over the page, people bowing to statues, pictures, or other physical objects. I actually spoke to someone, it was Josh Denton actually, who's recently been to Thailand, and I asked him, what did you think when you saw all of these, these temples with these massive gold statues outside and that sort of thing? And to be honest, he said, you think they're a bit crazy, right? Meaning we just don't understand it anymore. There's no such thing in our culture in the Western world as people. What does it mean? What are they bowing to? So he asked the question in the top of page 70, but if these things are no more than lifeless statues, dreamed up ideas, why does the Torah relate to them as if they are real? He goes on to bring a number of different pasukim. Who is like you among the gods, Hashem? All of the gods and nations are small gods. Hashem is a great and a king over all other gods. Why does the Torah even call them gods? Meaning, if this is all a nonsense, this whole idea of idol worship has absolutely no basis at all. And it's just this ridiculous thing that people made up. They bow down to some statue. So then why does the Torah relate to them as anything more than just be ridiculous? As he asks, the Torah shouldn't say, don't worship idols. The Torah should say, don't be stupid, right? Essentially, I had a rabbi in yeshiva, actually, Rav Blachman, a big American, like powerful American. And one of the things he kind of drilled into us again and again and again, he said, Asa Leo Shoter, which means it's forbidden to be stupid. Yeah, it's forbidden to be stupid. Don't be stupid. Be wise, be clever, be smart, learn, be educated, right? At whatever level that's going to be in every area of life, be wise and be educated. So is the Torah coming to tell us, don't be stupid? Is that what it means? Like when we're worried about other, that's the second commandment, in the whole of the 10 commandments. It's really important, right? This is the second of all of the commandments that God says to us. And in fact, the only two that we hear directly from God himself, I am Hashem your God, don't serve other gods. But these other gods are nonsense. These other gods don't seem to really be anything but a figment of people's imagination. He goes at the bottom of the page 70. Thirdly, from a deeper perspective, the Torah uses names for these other gods, which are some of the very names which are Hashem's. Elohim Achirim, right? That word is very familiar to us as Hashem's God, which means other gods. So again, if it's just a nonsense and this whole statue thing is made up, then why would the Torah refer to them in the same name, Elohim Achirim, that it does to Hashem? So let's see. Let's continue. Top of page 71. The answer lies in understanding some of the deeper levels which form the foundation of the creation. Nefesh HaChaim, many other sources tell us, there are interlocking levels to the creation, meaning we see the world as it is right here, and we're sure that is all there is to it. You've got the earth down here, and then up there you've got the sky, and you've got the clouds, and you've got the planets, and the solar system, and everything. That's all we know of this world. But in fact, says the Nefesh HaChaim, is an infinitely stretching chain, beginning at the source of its existence, Hashem, and all the worlds are connected in sequence, down from Hashem himself, all through the worlds. And each of these worlds infuses the level below it with existence and energy. Each is male with regard to the world below, which is relatively speaking female, and together they bring out yet another level below them. They almost like give birth to another level. This process continues and continues until finally our finite world results. Meaning, we've got levels and realms of spirituality. And everything that happens in Shemayim travels down through the different worlds until it comes down to the physical world with which we are part of. And he continues and he says that actually there is between the higher worlds and our concrete physical world, there is a stage which is an intermediate stage. an intermediate stage, meaning all of the energy, all of what we call the shefa, the goodness, which comes down to this world, has to go through the intermediate level. As he continues in the middle of the paragraph, middle of the page in 71, the function of this is to transmit the higher energies down to the world. The creative energy that forms aspects of our world, the hashgacha, divine providence, which manipulates the affairs of our world. This is the interface between the higher worlds and ours. And it's the limit of that which can be perceived from our perspective, which means this is something which is above our world, but we actually can perceive it. Whereas Shamayim itself, heaven itself, is not something we can sense, it's not something we can have any sort of real tangible connection to, but this intermediate level we can. And he says this intermediate level is the world of the stars, or the zodiac, which in Hebrew are known as the mazalot. Okay? In fact, he says the word mazel, we commonly translate as luck. Yeah? When you wish someone a mazel tov, you probably thought it meant good luck. Mazel tov. In fact, it doesn't. Mazal comes from the word nozel, which is a flow. When a person actually has a runny nose, in Ivrit, they have a nozelet. Okay, because it's flowing, right? They call it a nozelet. You've got a runny nose. So a mazal is a flow. And what we're actually saying is it represents the flow of energy from that higher level down to this world. So mazal tov means that you should have a good flow. Someone's making a simcha. What we say to them is, essentially, just like you have been zoche, you've merited to have a beautiful simcha today, so you should continue onwards to have a mazal tov, that you should have a good flow of energy which comes down from the higher spiritual worlds. As he ends off, of course, there could not be a more inaccurate translation than luck. The concept of luck implies total randomness. Mazal is just the opposite. Only the source of the directing hand behind it is hidden, which is why it is so easily perceived as random. Okay, good luck is random. It's saying there's nothing in charge, and I hope you just randomly something good happens to you. Mazel tov means everything is directed and guided, and Hashem should continue directing your life to give you all of the goodness possible. He continues. This intermediate level, therefore, is astrology. Astrology is the science of understanding this world, the intermediate world, and using the knowledge of its structure and change to predict events in the physical world. He says, in essence, it's not actually telling the future. Those star signs, zodiacs, all of that sort of stuff, whether the ones in the newspapers are accurate or not, I have absolutely no idea. But there is something true. There is a truth in it. But they're not telling you the future. One who knows the stars can tell what will happen because the causative energies are already present, which means already now in the star signs, that energy which is going to be flowing down can be read. It can be identified. That's what the star signs are. A simple analogy would be if one showed a seed to an expert, he could predict which tree will grow from that seed many years hence. The non-expert would just see a seed. The expert's not seeing the future. He simply knows seeds, and particular seeds become particular trees naturally and predictably. That is exactly the point about astrology. It is not a transcendent wisdom. It is a knowledge of the root of the natural. So therefore, those people who are able to do this, and whether people nowadays can do it in truth or not, I don't know. But what they could see in the mazolos, what they can see in the star signs, is the seed from which everything else is going to grow. They're not seeing into the future. What they're doing is they're able to see the root of everything that's going to come out of this. Now, he says, let's apply this concept to idolatry. The mazolos splits the higher energy into different channels. And every channel is the root of certain energies within nature. So, for example, one channel is going to be going towards the sun, and one channel will be the wind, and one channel will be the rain, and one channel will be the air, and all the different sort of forces that exist in this world and more will all come from different channels within the mazolos. Idolatry, he says, in essence, is the idea of relating not to the supernal. Instead of relating to God, which is above everything, the source of all existence and ultimate oneness, instead, it is relating to the channels which bring down this energy. If you like, the opening of the pipelines, the tzinorus in Hebrew. An idolater focuses on the zodiac, the mazolos, or on forces of nature, the sun, the wind, the rain. His graven images are representations of these deeper energies. Of course, one who serves Hashem could never create a physical representation. One whose perception goes no further than a source of the natural can. Meaning, the mistake of idolatry is not serving a piece of wood. It's not serving a piece of stone. What it is serving the intermediary, which means it's very hard to consider and to understand anything about Hashem because it's so distant from us. It's something which is so high above us. And therefore, as he speaks about in a minute, the Rambam says, over a period of time, people decided that instead of worshipping Hashem, they would take something more tangible. They would take the intermediaries. They would worship the sun, because after all, the sun surely has a lot of control over everything that's taking place in the world. And therefore, although the sun isn't the ultimate source, but why don't we try praying to the sun? Why don't we try asking the sun? Because the sun seems to be in charge of everything. Why don't we have a God of love? Because that seems to be a really important force in the world. So we'll create a God of love. And even though at the beginning they understood that there was a real God who was above all of these other gods, but nevertheless, they wanted something more tangible, something which was a representation that they were easily able to relate to. That was the mistake that they did. He continues, bottom of page 73, the real difference, and this is important, this is where sort of we can understand what the real problem and challenge, the root and why idolatry is something which is so severe. It's got to be the second of the commandments. The real difference between worship of the source and worship of intermediaries is as follows. One who serves the source is concerned about what his obligations are. What does Hashem want of me? How do I sacrifice myself and give myself to Hashem? One who serves the intermediaries is concerned about what they can do for him. The intermediaries are, after all, the immediate source of our needs and our natural functions of the world. The idolater looks to the source of power, love, wealth, and all of his needs and asks, how can they serve me? I don't want to serve God. I don't want to serve Hashem. I would like to know, essentially, what Hashem can do for me. And the way, therefore, that I'll do that is take all of the intermediaries which seem to provide everything in my life, then I will relate to those instead of the source. Rabbi Simcha Wasserman Zatzal used to say, idolatry is like the behavior of an individual who enters a department store and wants something which is too expensive for his liking. Top of page 74, he offers the clerk behind the counter a bribe so that he should hand him the object. Okay, meaning he's not going to go to the actual store and pay. He doesn't really want to pay the full price, but he will bribe the person behind the counter. He's prepared to pay the price of the bribe, but not the full price of the object. He relates to the departmental clerk, but doesn't concern himself with the owner. The owner does not deliver the goods, the clerk does. So therefore, he's prepared to bribe the person working behind the till, behind the desk, but not go directly to the owner. Similarly, someone who worships an idol. He's prepared to pay some price, but not the full price. The full price required for genuine service is all that you have. And that is too much for him. He seeks to pay off the source which delivers the goods. That is his concern. But Hashem, who's the overall owner of the entire world, isn't his concern. Where can I obtain the goods? One has to only consider the gods of ancient Greece, a god of love, a god of war, a god of fertility, but no one God who created the world, because that is irrelevant when you seek only the goods. Meaning there's a fundamental difference. Idolatry is not just nonsense. Idolatry is a fundamental view of the world where I am at the center. And I may need some sort of higher being in my life because I know I'm not completely able to be in control. But those higher beings that I will invent or create or worship are only in order to serve my needs. With us, it's the other way around. Hashem doesn't serve our needs. He runs the world with emes, with truth. And if anything, we are here to serve his needs. We are here to fit into his plan. And the fact that we don't relate to any of those intermediaries is because we can't take for granted or know that we're supposed to have this, that this is what we're supposed to do, that this is what we want to take. That's not our relationship with Hashem. Our relationship with Hashem is first and foremost, what can I do for you? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing? What are my obligations? What is my purpose? What is my mission in this world? Then a part of that is, once we have that relationship with Hashem, that we're allowed to ask Him for things. We're asking the owner of the entire shop. We're not going to the people that will just satisfy, serve our needs, the guy working behind the till and bribing him, as it were. He continues, correctly understood, the heart of the difference is this. True service understands that Hashem is everything. I am only to serve. Idolatry understands that I am everything, and my gods are to serve me. As it says in Chazal, Tzadikim, their God stands over them. Hashem was standing over him with the dream of the ladder with Yaakov, whereas with Rishaim, wicked people, stand over their gods, meaning they're in charge of their gods. As it says, Paro was standing over the river, the Nile. Diametric opposites. Who counts and where is reality? Hashem counts, and he is the source of reality, and that is worship of Hashem. But if I count and reality is the world of my personal desires, that is idolatry. This also explains why images of idolatrous worship are often human, because idolatry is really worship of the self. The graven images are just protections of the self. Astrology, intermediates, and idolatry, their worship. So therefore, essentially, we're saying there is a real danger. Idol worship isn't as ridiculous as it sounds, because although none of us would ever consider, like, I think buying an idol, bowing down to like some sort of graven image of wood or stone or gold or anything else, nevertheless, we do have to ask ourselves, what am I worshipping? Am I really, truly thinking and considering what does Hashem want from me? Or am I going about my life thinking about what do I want from Him? If that's all I'm doing, essentially, then really I'm worshipping myself. And I'm just trying to drag out from Him. I'm just trying to fit Him in with my way of life, essentially. But my way of life is my way of life. Perhaps it leads into Purim, because in Purim was the time when we saw that there's really no such thing. We really saw that everything that takes place doesn't have to be something which is miraculous, not a splitting of the sea, and it's not the 10 plagues, and it's not this incredible revelation of Mount Sinai. It was just the ordinary things in life, which we saw was all Hashem. Everything that took place was Hashem. That is the type of life which we need to lead as Jewish people, because it's only when we stop realizing that, it's only when we become unaware, when we forget about how Hashem is really running the world, then we start to think that actually, you know what, the world revolves around me. As long as we can be in the right frame of mind, which is what Purim is to remind us about every single year, right? Timcha Ezecher Amalek. Why are we going to read on Shabbat? We've got a positive mitzvah when it comes to Purim to destroy, blot out, wipe out the memory of Amalek. You know why? Because Amalek was the nation that denied God. It denied God openly and flagrantly after the greatest of all the miracles they came when they attacked the Jewish people. And therefore, erasing their memory means aspiring to a time where God's awareness is so clear to everyone in the world that no one could imagine doing such a thing, going against God in such an open and blatant way. All of that is the Purim story. All of that is the idea, is what we try to imbibe over the next few days. And please God, all of us should be merit and we should be zocher to have a wonderful, beautiful, and happy Purim together. We're going to end off there.